Gus.
Yep,
Yes,
this is a group topic. So, we all three
Ah.
have different reservations about this next topic.
This one gets me fired up.
Yeah, we get wrecked on this one. So,
and our viewpoints will be different.
yes. So this
I think for all
topic
of us.
are the pros and cons of developers postponing multiple times the release of the games that we wait for forever.
But can I start this?
I mean, I don't
Shoot.
see anybody stopping you.
Okay, great. So, in our last podcast, I talked about Mass Effect Andromeda coming out March 31st. Well, that's been pushed back again. Sons of bitches. To just spring. It doesn't give you a date, it just says spring. Well, thanks a lot. But, I personally, I see pros and cons for this. I can see the cons more. It's like people are getting built up about it, and like, well, maybe they're just trying to tune things up and fix it and fix, you know, graphics to make it look better, this, that, and the other. It's like, well, that's great and all, but if it's gonna come out and we've waited this long for it, I don't want it to be crap. Like, they've said that they've been thinking about this game since Mass Effect 3. So they've been thinking about this for a very long
Obviously.
time. Yeah. And I'm just like, well, if you've been starting to develop this since Mass Effect 3, and it's going to be 2017, almost mid-2017 until it comes out, I don't want it to be crap. And there's been a few games recently that have pushed back their dates. The most recent one that I know of is Battleborn.
Yep.
That got pushed back. The week it was supposed to be released got pushed back a few more weeks.
Oh yeah, the one I've already prepaid, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, got pushed back. The week it was supposed to come out till June.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Yep, so we'll see in June if that one comes out.
Yeah, and I mean, I've played a bit of Battleborn. Was it worth the wait? Kinda. It wasn't what I was expecting out of the game. Not in a bad way. I think it has a lot more dynamics. It's very colorful. It reminds me a lot of Borderlands. But I don't see what they added on in the 3 weeks that they pushed it back from the release date. And that was one that I pre-ordered, and it was supposed to come out, I think, November of last year. Was pushed back to April, and then pushed back to May. And it was absolutely insane.
see, my thing is, if they need to take their time, they need to take their time. We've seen so many games come out too early, or they didn't take that good 2 to 3 year development and turn out like shit. Anybody remember Assassin's Creed Unity and the ones that followed and all the glitches and bullshit that happened because of that? I don't mind that my game that I prepaid, I had to wait an extra month for. If they got to wrinkle out some things and polish it up to make it a great game instead of giving me a shit show, I'm all for it. You see, early on in my life, I would get pissy when they would like push it back and push it back. But then I started to notice a trend. When they didn't, I ended up getting a lot of shit games. And the ones that they usually push back, Battleborn might be an exception to this and the one you brought before, but 9 out of 10 times, they were way better games because of it. Like we were bringing up with Call of Duty, they're coming out every year, they're not coming out with anything inventive, they're not, you know what I mean? So you got to give them that time to, you know, make it, and that's just my opinion about it. So I'm all for waiting if I have to. If it's a month to an extra year and a half, I'm cool, as long as it gives them the opportunity to really polish the game, maybe add something new to it that'll make the game great instead of okay or mediocre at best. You know what I mean?
I can see where you stand on it, but at the same time, so Mass Effect is BioWare. Let's look at another Mass Effect game that was pushed back in development. Was Dragon Age 2.
Mm-hmm.
The redheaded stepchild of that series.
Yes, it is very much so.
That was also pushed back in development. I don't remember how long it was, but it was pushed back, and it ended out just... It didn't deliver what we wanted from it. And that's what I think... That's where I think they may end up... Where some people that end up having to push back production, where they may shoot themselves in the foot, per se, is that you will build up all of this excitement for this game, and you don't deliver what people want and what they were expecting.
Yeah.
You will get a lot of bad reviews, and then maybe not even be able to make the next game.
But see, on the same coin flip from the very same developers, think about Mass Effect 3. It was rushed into development. It came out, we had 3 different endings for 3 different character traits, but were all the exact same trailer and only 2 to 5 seconds long with no variation to them. And at the same time, the first level, come to find out, hey, the background's pixelated. We didn't even take the time to actually 3D model it. Like, that's another coin flip to it, you know?
Well, I think there's a difference between rushed and being pushed back. I mean, yes, Mass Effect 3 was brought out incredibly fast. And that was...
We paid the price.
Yes, we did.
And I have to agree with Deanne there. There is a big difference between being rushed into production and being pushed back for development. So in being rushed for production, it's basically they're saying, oh, well, let's just throw something out there so that we can make money.
Oh, yeah.
And in being pushed back, I mean, from a standpoint of the developer, it is because, they're like, oh, okay, let's fine tune some things. It's not quite ready to be released. But from the consumer standpoint, that causes them to lose confidence in the people that they're investing their money in. You're putting your $60 that you may not have, but you're making your pre-orders and going into GameStop or wherever the hell and putting in $10 a week out of every paycheck to pay for this game, and you've timed it just right so that you'll have it there, and then all of a sudden to hear that it's going to be pushed back a couple more months. Now, for some of those people, yes, it is one of those things that they're like, okay, but there's also a good portion that look at it like, okay, so like, why didn't you just announce a later date in the first place? Like, I could have waited longer to do this.
Well, see, and I have a very good point to that. Is we do live in a very we need it now consumerism type fold, where we want our games now and we want them released now, and they try to give us these predicted release dates and get it to us. But at the same time, as some part, you have to give it as us consumers. We are pushing them to get them out faster, and we need the next big hit. And they're not taking time to develop those. Some people might see a lack in confidence for a publisher and developer when they pushed it back a month. Me, I'm like, okay, at least they have the balls to go, yo, we're sorry, but we want to make sure we give you the best game we possibly can so we don't dick you over in the long run.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's true, but
like, look
at the same time, pushing it back a month, they're not going to change the whole thing. Like, they're not going to change the whole story. They're not going to change all of this. They're going to stick with what they've got. They're just going to make it look prettier. They may add a few things. But overall, they're not going to change everything that they've made up to it.
Very true.
Now,
there's also game-changing glitches that can be found that, oh shit, we didn't notice this. We got to fix this real quick,
Well, see, now, and you're one that actually witnessed that, because if you'll recall, when me and REMO 317 took a field trip to GameStop. He went in to pay for his pre-order and was informed that they may not even release any of the pre-orders that he had for one of the games. They said now they don't even know you're paying all this money into it. They keep pushing it back a little bit longer, and now they don't even know that they're going to come out with the game at all.
Yeah.
Well, he said they're going to
And
come
that
out with
was-
it. They just don't know if it's going to be through the publisher or the developer, since that was because of internal fighting between the companies.
Well, I mean, but she does bring up
Oh, yeah.
a very good point. Is that because I mean that was one that I was gonna say is that there have been games that have been that people have looked at and said, "Oh, that looks great. I can't wait for it," and then it's been pushed back, and then ends up in developers' purgatory.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, they just stopped developing on it because they put so much into it, and it's like we're not even going to get our investment back. So they just stop production on it. And then it just sits there. And they're not going to bring it back.
Well, see, continue, sir.
That's one thing that's worrying me. Is that you pushed it back far enough, they won't get their investment back in this game. They'll just develop as far as they can, and then the game will literally just die, and we won't get it at all.
So would you rather have them follow the Bethesda model with Fallout and Elder Scrolls, where they don't release anything all the way up until like 6 months before they release the game? Like you'll go 4 to 5 years with no knowledge about it? Would you think that would be a good trade-off?
Well, I actually witnessed the same thing because for those who watched our last one, I talked about Dead Island, the definitive edition. Dead Island 2, which is not part of the definitive edition at all, was supposed to be released in December of 2015 and got pushed back an entire year and has been available for pre-order since July of last year. They were supposed to come out with it in December. Now, Dead Island, of course, is not a very big, well-known game. I mean, if you like Dead Island, you do, but it's not something that you're going to go on TV and see advertisements for like you would Call of Duty or Battlefield or any of the other games that we've been talking about. But at the same time, it's but it's already been 5 years since you put out the last, since you put out the first one. And now Deanne, you might remember this more than I do because Deanne bought me the second one, but I don't think Dead Island Riptide and Dead Island 1 had the same developers. I know one of them was the same, but I think they each had a different one because if you'll remember, they did a Telltale version of Dead Island Dead Island Riptide to make up for the difference.
Yeah, I think there's a Dead Island Riptide did have a different developer than the first one, and then they made some off-spoken Dead Island that I don't know about that came out just for the 360.
Yeah.
It looks very weird.
It was an episodic Dead Island is what it was. So if you've ever played Walking Dead, it's like that.
Wolf Among Us.
Right. But honestly,
sorry, go ahead.
Honestly, to what Brandon had asked me before was that with Bethesda and Fallout, do I think it would be better to have it like that? I don't know. Honestly, what I really wish was that they would just be like, hey, we're developing this game. No, we don't have a date for it.
Yeah.
And then just, periodically release, little news segments about what's going on with it and this, that, and the other. So that way it's not like everyone's waiting for this specific date. And then all of a sudden to hear, well, production got pushed back.
Yeah.
It's a teeter-totter effect, really.
Yep.
You put too much weight on one end or the other, and you're not going to have an equal balance for profit or demand. You're not.
You definitely can't put out a shit game. You can't wait 2-3 years to put out a game you said you were going to put out the year before.
I mean,
I'll agree with you there. You have to find a balance to it. So you got to make sure your eggs are in a basket. And if you need an extra month, fine, but don't make us wait an extra year, which I agree with you with. But like Assassin's Creed Unity, if they would have waited a month and actually really tested that game-killing glitch, they could have easily fixed within a month, but they didn't.
And I mean, with Assassin's Creed, I agree. Unity, total crap. I've played a full 15 minutes of it, and I was like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
And then I played Syndicate, which was better. It was a definite improvement. Does it hit the bar for Assassin's Creed? No.
Well, so do you guys remember that though? When Unity came out, they had like the first launch week, they had a glitch that literally shut down the game.
It wasn't even that. The glitch I saw just like made people's faces disappear. It's like, well, who am I talking to?
Like a creepypasta.
The Amish
like,
have infiltrated.
Right? It's like, God damn it. This person's completely disappeared. Now I have to restart this mission.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, it was. I agree. If they would have pushed that back for a little bit more testing and working out the bugs, that would have been fine. A month, I'm not worried about.
Yeah.
Do it. And they did that with Syndicate. Again, it's not up to par with the other, with like Black Flag or 3. It's better than Unity, but anything's a step up above that.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, that was just no.
You know what's so
Oh,
sad
thank
is
you.
I got that game for free with my Xbox One and I've never played it.
I don't remember how I got it for Christmas. And then,
I think so.
yeah, I did get it for Christmas, and then I was like, yeah, no, I can't deal with the glitches. I think since then they may have been worked out, but it's just something that it's like, I don't know that I can redo it.
Yeah,
Because the story also itself felt rushed.
Yeah.
A little bit. I think, but with pushing things back, 1 month or 2 months, I can look past that. When you do it, like, a couple months, and then you're like, this is the release date.
Yeah.
And then it gets towards that release date, and then they're like, oh no, we're pushing it back some more. I've already put my $65 in this to pre-order it. Can I please have it? Like, I mean, I understand there are some hiccups, and you will have that.
Mm-hmm.
But can you work through that the first couple months? Of course, that's just me ranting. I don't know what these guys go through. I'm not trying to say that I know what they go through.
Yeah.
For anyone trying to rant at me. That's just my perspective on it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you too on the whole. You shouldn't be pushing it back a year, 2 years, to a whole other spring. You definitely want to get your eggs in a basket and have at least an almost finished game before you announce when you're going to release it. You know what I mean? And then if you need a month or two, then yeah, that's fine. But pushing it back a year or two, it's like, then you weren't ready to announce a release date to begin with.
Exactly.
And I can agree with you there. Most definitely.
Yeah. That's how game developers should do it. They should like go to a gaming convention and be like, hey, here's a game that you've been waiting for that we're developing. We're developing it. We don't have a release date for you. Sorry. Come back to us a little later. I mean, that's me personally how I feel that they should do it, but you're right. We live in a world where everybody wants what they want. They want it now.
Yep.
They don't want to wait.
We
don't live in a patient society anymore.
Instant gratification.
Oh, no. Not in a long time.
Yeah.
Must have. Consume.
Yeah, and then like those of us that, and you know, it's unfortunate, but I mean, you know, those of us that really wish that they would, you know, take the time, you know, to put into these games so that they don't end up, you know, being awful or being pushed back or anything like that, in order to be, you know, brought out by their release date, we're the ones that suffer the consequences because we make these investments. And, people are like, oh, but I gotta have it now, gimme. And then it's like, okay, but this is shit. Like, why are you doing this? And then it's just right back to square one where it's like, oh, well, if you're going to keep pushing it back, then what was the point in announcing this release date in the first place? Like, it's just a vicious cycle that you're running into, basically.
Speaking of which, the funniest thing I've always noticed is that the people that always bitch saying they want it now are the first people to bitch that it's a crappy game.
Yeah.
Has anyone else noticed that?
Not me.
Well,
I've been waiting for Borderlands 3 forever.
Oh, yeah. I know. So have I.
See, that's like Bethesda with Fallout or Elder Scrolls. They're taking the time to make sure they give you that good game.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's been like 3 years, 3.5 years, 4 years since the last one came out. They didn't even tease that they were going to come out with it until this year at PAX East. And, that's the way that it needs to be. Like, just keep it under the wraps, do what you're going to do with it, and don't give us a release date until you're sure that you're ready to bring it out. Like, that's the only thing that I asked for. Because I swear to God, if you had told me that Borderlands 3 was coming out 3 years ago and they kept pushing it back, I would be the most pissed off MF right now.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know you would.
Yeah.
You'd probably You would be the same way I am about Mass Effect. Like, you were just like, y'all are starting to piss me off now. You're gonna start writing angry letters.
Well, I mean, just imagine. I think BioShock Infinite actually went through the same thing quite a few times before it came out, too. I think it kept getting pushed back. I was actually just reading up on that when we first started this because I know people waited a long time for it.
Yeah.
And it had it had a couple of different original release dates, and they pushed it back a couple more months. And if you haven't played BioShock Infinite, I gotta tell you, that is the best freaking game ever. And that is a really good example of what Brandon's talking about, is that it is like, it is important that developers, if they need to take the extra time in order to make the changes that are going to make the game great, to take that time. But there's also a lot of companies that will release games and push them back simply for the sake that they know that if they release it when they do, they're not going to make the profit that they put into it. And that's the kind of crap that I can't stand, is that they're pushing it back for monetary reasons and not to improve the game, not a single freaking bit.
I actually have something to add since you brought that up about shit shows coming out way too early and everything else.
Yeah.
There's a game that came out, I think, on Xbox One. I think it was a skating game. Tony Hawk, actually, I think it was.
Tony Hawk 5?
Yeah. Do you know half the game was not even on the disc? They rushed it out so fast that you had to take like a 20-hour download of patch to actually put the game on the game. That's ridiculous.
I know. That's why that game went back to GameStop.
Yeah.
For 5 cents.
It's like, just because you can patch doesn't mean you should. Your game should be finished when you release it out the damn door. Patches are there to help it along after it's out.
Oh yeah, and that was one of the things that I hate, is that they came out with Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5. The last one I played was 4, which was on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
The original PlayStation. It's like, and then it's like, oh well, we're gonna release number 5 for you all. It's like, oh great. It's like, are you gonna have zany characters like you did in number 4? Because I think in number 2 you could actually skate as Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, they had a lot of cool little Easter eggs.
And it's like, no, it was nothing like that. You had a set number of people. You can't even customize something. It was like, why did I buy this? Okay.
Yeah, see, and that's an example of where, the developer has an enormous amount of time, to develop a game, and they just don't.
Yeah.
They give you something that's half of what you expected it to be.
And we get paid the price. We pay the price for it.
It's definitely one that's just... There's been several games that have just dropped the ball. Either being released too soon, or released really late, and were... got a cough there, Brandon?
13 years. Longest goddamn game development ever.
Yeah.
They really paid the price.
I mean, that's how I feel about it. If anybody else has anything.